you're getting low on hay. What are you doing? Does your eyeball itch? Do you ever have those days when you feel like there's a lot of things you could be doing, but you don't really feel like doing any of them at all? I guess this is one of those days. Mom and babies are conked out. Somebody's snoring over there. Sometimes, actually, I guess most of the time, you forge on ahead no matter how you feel. One of the things I love about the life that Hilarie and I have chose is we get to decide. Oh, we don't want much of that to spill out. It's red gold. And it's a danger too. Just like any small business, you got to get up and go. You're making your own destiny. So, well, we take a little bit of flex time here and there. I call them mental health days. We get a lot done. What's going on, Ezra? Oh my gosh, you need to go out, don't you? Yeah. Better hurry. Today's the day that I would usually do a mechanical video, but I'm waiting on ignition parts for the 504, so I'm not doing that today.
So how's work on the tractor going?
When I pulled it in, I said, oh, I think I got a couple days work here. And it was a couple days. Order parts, a couple more days. Order parts. I think I got a couple more days on it. Do you remember when you met me and you looked at me and screamed?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Why did you scream?
I don't know. You were too quiet.
Oh.
You were too quiet.
I think I'll make that roast tonight.
That sounds good.
Are you gonna have potato? Are you keeping busy in here?
Yes, I started another book. So, yep. Got a big old pile.
Yeah, you're sitting by the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah. I think I'll probably go out in the cold again.
I need more kindling while you're out there.
Okay. There's a period during the change in seasons where everything hesitates. It's getting cold, but the snow hasn't really come yet. The animals are settling in, but they're not settled in, and neither are we. We're changing our habits, and nature is changing its habits. It doesn't seem so sure itself. One day's nice, one day's not. We're in this funny zone. We'll figure it out. And it's good that we have a little time to make that change. I think I'll go crack some walnuts. Big guy. When my grandfather was a kid, he attended a one-room schoolhouse down the road. He was born in 1901, so this is around 1910. And I know quite a bit about his life back then because I have a bunch of things. Number one is I have his journals. Even though he was a little kid, he kept a journal, and it seemed like everybody back then kept a journal. He probably had to do it for part of his English class in school. I'm sure he loved that, being a little kid. But he had to walk to school every day, even in the winter. And school was a couple miles away, uphill both ways, of course, through 3-foot deep snow. That's what his journal said. And the other thing I have is I have his composition books and his schoolwork books with his math problems and his doodles, which are just amazing. The doodles from a kid from the beginning of the century, the beginning of the last century, it's just amazing it survived that long. I also have photos of him at his old schoolhouse, class pictures, and I'll put one up here. I have the school tax bill. So being out in the middle of the country, there was no centralized school system to speak of, not like it was one big building. It was a one-room schoolhouse, and each community took care of their schoolhouse themselves. And so they had a sort of tax bill, but it wasn't the tax bill that you and I get today for school taxes. It had how much firewood that they had, or coal, that they had to provide to the school. The percentage of the teacher's salary, who the teacher was right on the bill and their salary. It was much more a localized community effort. I don't know how long my grandfather went to school, as far as how many grades he completed. I haven't really gone through the diaries that closely, but I have boxes of diaries from my grandfather, my great-grandmother, my great-great-grandfather, and my great-great-grandmother, extending all the way back to the 1860s, 1850s, 1860s. Their day-to-day life, summer, winter, was amazing. One of the interesting things that's also on the tax information that I have and in the diaries is that each resident was responsible for plowing a section of their own road, keeping it clear in the snow. There was no central authority that did that back in the turn of the century when my grandfather was a kid. So what did they do? They went out and they shoveled the road. So from my house all the way down to the corner, I gather from the journals, that was their responsibility to keep clear, and they shoveled it by hand. Amazing. Amazing how hard people used to work. Of course, it wasn't like it was today where people had to get out and go every day of the year. And the salt trucks are out in anticipation of the snow. They probably drove on hardpack most of the time. Heck, it was the same way here 25 years ago. You know, you drive on hardpack. Now you never drive on hardpack. It's always, the roads always have to be just wet after it snows. So they probably didn't shovel the road unless they had a really big snowstorm and nobody could get through because the snow was too fluffy and soft. Otherwise, they just let it be. Expend the least energy that is necessary. Makes sense when energy costs you a lot. I crack a bunch of them at a time and then I pick the meat out. You know, assembly line, disassembly line fashion. At the opposite end of my grandfather's life, when he was in his 70s and after his mom had died and he was living in the house where we live by himself, he retreated to one room of the house. And I remember this with a lot of my older relatives back in the 70s when I was growing up. In the wintertime especially, all the old houses had a door on every room, and the idea was you had heat in just about every room in the form of a coal stove, a wood stove, an oil burning stove, and you would close down that room or selection of rooms that you wanted and you would just heat that part of the house. The house had no insulation in it. It had no real air barrier, so if the wind was blowing, it was pretty drafty in the house. He would close it down to one room. He had his bed in that room, and when I was a little kid, it was the kitchen. He would cook his meals in there. He would sleep. He had a bed on one side, and he had the stove in there. And that was the house for him. And then later on, up until he died, he was in the front room or the parlor, which is our living room where we have the wood stove now. And he would cook that up to about 90 degrees in there because he had arthritis, and it would make his arthritis feel better. Living in one room was the way it was if you were living alone or you had a small family in a house like that because of heat. Again, using the least amount of energy possible. When you're splitting your own wood, what you heat and how much energy it takes to make that heat is important to you. You got to know where to cut them, and I've forgotten in all the years it's been since I harvested black walnuts. You cut them in a certain spot and they'll pop right out. Alright, I'm quitting. I've been at this for about an hour, and this is what I got. It's a pretty good amount in there. This is how much shells I got. Look at all these guys. It's definitely a labor of love. And Hilarie came in and stole about half of them, so they actually made about twice as much. Or maybe I ate them. I don't know. Could be a possibility. Any nut meat that I missed, I'm sure the squirrels will get when I chuck the shells on the lawn. This is a boneless pork butt out of the sow Missy that we butchered last fall. And it is significantly different from eating young pork. We have to truss her up here so she doesn't fall apart on us. Hilarie's usually around to help me and hold the string, but she's busy right now. So I'm doing it by myself. I think it needs some seasoning. See how dark the meat is? The older the animal, the darker the meat gets. That seems like a rule to me. Do you know what Missy's problem is? No, it's not that she's in the freezer. That is a problem for her anyway. But for us, it's that she was a lean pig. She doesn't have that nice fat cap on a butt roast like you would get normally. And I'm going to give this a try. We're going to put her in the rotisserie. Get that out. Just set it and forget it. I gotta get my afternoon chores done. It's already starting to get dark out here. Cows have got some complaints about the hay situation. Yeah, I've heard ya. They're not getting new hay till tomorrow. They got plenty on the other side, and they gotta learn to eat their potatoes. All right, ye pigs, getting close to night-night time. Brownie. Hey, Jonathan. What are you doing, bud? Let's get you some water. Howdy, Red. I see all your little ones are in their little house. Yeah, they're coming out to get a drink. And they need some food. There's dinner, Brownie. Here you go, Mom. Mr. John. There you go, bud. The field pigs are whining because I'm late with my chores. They're saying, I'm hungry. Where you been? Look at this guy. You been digging to China? I think so. You guys are pretty hungry, aren't you? Alrighty, guys. In the morning, I feed them all out of the trailer to have them get in, get used to it. In the afternoon, I only put one tray in there and 3 out here. so that the little pigs who get pushed out of the trailer get a chance to eat at least once a day. Although I think they're getting in the morning too. Come on, you calves. Go back in with Bob. You know, these cows are belly aching like they're starving, but they got plenty of hay on this side to last them the evening. Here you go, guys. Dinner. Lastly, I gotta go check on the heifers and make sure they don't have anything to complain about. I'm sure they probably do. Hello, ladies. Oh, it's dark in here. Where'd the pork go? Sure is a pretty sunset today. Well, let's see how she came out. We like our roast a little bit crispy. That's our favorite part. A little bit pink, just the way we like it. And of course we got to do the chef's taste test, right? Can't ever forget that. It is good. Much different flavor than a young pig and an older pig. It's a richer flavor, just like with beef. I approve. Hilarie's over there. Today was an enjoyable day, and this will be an enjoyable dinner. I didn't get the things done that were high on my priority list, but that's okay. There's always tomorrow. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. I'm gonna go eat.